Welcome to our video for Concept 4 in Chapter 3. This is the last video we're going to have for this chapter. Woo woo, I know you're so excited about that. Before we get started though, I noticed that when these notes photocopied for you, the lines in the graph copied really lightly and they're very difficult to see. So what I did is I went in and I compared it to my original copy of the notes, and I know exactly how many tick marks or how many units needs to be here in between each one. So what I'm going to have you do is pause the video right now on this screen, please, where everything is in your view, and I want you to go in on your own notes and add these little tick marks so that you have an easier time finding the slope of these lines when we work on this, okay? So go ahead and pause right now. Fill in everything so that yours looks like mine. Add these little tick marks, and when you're ready, please resume. So today we're going to be talking about something called slope. Now, I have a feeling that most of you already know about slope. This is probably nothing new at all, but we do need to go over it. So for a lot of you, lucky for you, this is going to be a little bit of a review. So what is slope? Okay, we've actually been working with slope this last concept when we were talking about rate of change, but slope is just a fancy mathematical term for rate of change. So they are basically the same thing. Okay, so the slope of a line is the ratio of the change in the y-coordinates. So how you change going up or down, because rise means up or down. And you know, y-coordinates go up and down, it's the y-axis. To the change in the x-coordinates, run, okay? So that'll be along the x-axis, the horizontal axis, as you move in the positive direction from left to right, okay? So that's something really important that you need to pay attention to. From left to right, meaning that our run is never going to go to the left. We're always going to go to the right, okay? Just like when you're reading a book, you read from left to right in this direction. Just like I just read this sentence. I wouldn't read this sentence backwards. Coordinates y, the, in change of ratio, the is line a of slope, the. That makes no sense at all. So it makes better sense to go from left to right when you read, and the same thing with math when we're talking about slope. You need to go from left to right, always, okay? So we always call slope of a line rise over run. Okay, but what does rise over run mean? Well, like I just said, rise is going to be your increase up or down, and your run is always, like we just said, going to be going to the right, never to the left, okay? So it's just a matter of looking at these lines and counting the hash marks, okay? So in my first example here, I'm starting at the point that's most to the left and moving to the right. So let's do our rise first. Rise goes on top, so let's count. We go up 1, 2, and we run 1. So we would call this slope 2 over 1, okay? Let's count this one. We're always going to start at whatever point is most to the left, and that would be this one. And we're going to do our rise first and then run. So let's count. 1, 2, 3. Whoops, I forgot hash marks for this one going up. It looks like here, here, and here. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 going up. So we've got 6 over, let's see how much we run. Oh, look, I forgot hash marks going this way also. Silly me. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So our slope is going to be 6 over 4. Okay. Let's look at this one. Notice how this line is sloping down as we go from left to right, and the other two have kind of increased. They've gone at an incline. Now we're going at a decline, okay? So pay really close attention to what's going to happen here when we count this slope. Let's start with the one that's most to the left and move over to the right. So we've got 1, 2, oh wait, I'm doing this wrong. Hopefully you were just yelling at your video or at your computer screen. We need to do our rise first. So I did this because I actually see a lot of students doing silly stuff like this. Pay close attention to what order you need to do things in. Always do your rise first. So let's start here and move up or down. Okay, so we're going to go down 1. Okay, so with our slope, we're going to have -1 because we went down. Down is a negative direction. And then we can do our run from left to right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. -1/7. All right, let's go down. How about this? When we've got a line that's going just horizontally from left to right. Well, let's do what we've been doing. Let's count rise over run. Okay, from left to right, start at this point. Do we rise at all? Do we go up or down at all? No, we don't. So what you're going to put for your rise is 0. How about our run? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops, I counted too many. Too big. My jumps were too big. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 0/6. Well, what's 0/6? What's 0 divided by any number? 0. Okay, so what this tells us is when we have a horizontal line, our rise is always going to be 0 because if it's a horizontal line, it's not increasing, it's not going up or down. So anytime you have a horizontal line, your slope will be 0. And think about it. There is no slope. Slope means how much it increases or decreases, and it doesn't. It just stays flat. So there is no slope at all. 0. Okay. How about a vertical line? What is that going to mean? Well, let's do our rise over run and see what happens. So rise, we're going to go up or down. But start from left to right. There is no left or right. What does this mean? Well, I'm just going to start at the top just to show you what happens here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we've got 7 over run. Do we run? Do we go left or right at all from here to this point? No, there's no change, right? We don't go to the right at all. So there's 0 change in the bottom. This right here should be throwing off some red flags. And not just because it's written in red pen. What's happening here? Can you divide by 0 ever? Do you have a calculator handy? I want you to try this. 7 divided by 0. Uh-oh, what does that say? Divide by 0, error. So we can never divide by 0. So what's going to happen when you have a vertical line, there is no slope, but even more than that, it's undefined. Okay, so you can't say 0 for this one like we did with a horizontal line. With a vertical line, it is undefined. It is impossible to do that. All right. I want you to try this last one on your own. Find your slope for this, and let's flip over to the next page. So now we're going to take slope a little bit further, and we're going to look at the formula for slope. Now this, just like with rise over run, this formula might actually be something you've learned already. It's probably nothing new, but we do need to go over it. And for those of us who are seeing this for the first time, pay very, very close attention. Okay, so this is going to be our formula for the slope of a line. This comes in handy when we have ordered pairs given to us and no graph. Now, yes, could we plot these points on a graph and then just count the slope? Well, sure, you could, but there's an easier way to handle this, and this is done using a formula for slope. Okay, this is read M always stands for the slope, equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. What does all that craziness mean? All the sub means is what point you're talking about. So when I say y sub 2, I'm talking about the y coordinate of the second point. Okay? When I talk about y sub 1, I'm talking about the y coordinate of the first point. Okay? So notice how there's a 1 and a 2, sub 1, sub 2. That means there's going to be 2 points. So in our first example, we could call this ordered pair our first point, and we could call this ordered pair our second point. So if we were going to label these things, we would call this our first point, meaning that this x value is x sub 1, and this y value 0 is y sub 1. Why are they both sub 1? Because they're the first point. Okay, they're the first ordered pair. The second ordered pair, this is our second point. So this is going to be our x value sub 2, and this is going to be our y value sub 2. Does that make sense? This is our first point, sub 1. This is our second point, sub 2. Now it's just a matter of plugging these numbers into our formula. So let's try that. M, which stands for slope, equals y sub 2. Which one of these points is y sub 2? 5, right? So 5 minus y sub 1. Which one is y sub 1? The 0. Over x sub 2 is going to be the 1 in the second point, minus x sub 1, which is negative 2. Be careful here. Minus negative 2. Minus a negative. What happens with double negatives? We turn those into a positive. Okay? So now let's just do the math to figure out our slope. What's 5 minus 0? 5. And what's 1 plus 2? 3. So our slope between these two ordered pairs is 5 over 3. 5 over 3. And type of line. This is a positive line and it goes uphill. That's what we know about positive lines, positive slopes. They go up. So this type of line is going to be an uphill positive line. Okay. Let's go down to number 3. We're going to use our formula again for this one. I'm going to help you label the points, and then I want you to pause the video and try on your own. This is our first point, so we're calling this x sub 1 and y sub 1. This is our second point, so here's x sub 2 and y sub 2. I want you to pause the video and try to find the slope for this one on your own. Top, we had negative 3 minus 4, and then we have 2 minus a negative 3. Double negatives turn into a positive. So negative 3 minus 4 is negative 7. 2 and 3 is 5. So we have a slope of negative 7 over 5. Now, this is a negative slope value. So what this means is this is going to be a downhill negative line. Okay? And you know this by the fact that the slope is a negative number. Negative slopes are going to go down. Okay? Have a decline. Number 5. Let's pause the video and try this one. First, I want you to label your points. This is going to be x sub 1 and y sub 1 because this is our first point. And our second point, we'll label the x coordinate and the y coordinate. Go ahead and plug those numbers into our formula and see what you get. Okay. Something's happening here. When we plug in our numbers, we have negative 1 minus negative 1. Double negatives make a positive. So we have negative 1 plus 1. That's going to be 0. On the bottom, 2 minus negative 3. Double negatives make a positive. That comes out to be 5. 0 divided by any number, we talked about this on the first page of notes, is going to be a slope of 0. Let's look back. When we had a slope of 0, what kind of line was this? This was a horizontal line. Okay? So we're going to name this a horizontal 0 line. Okay? Let's go down and try this next one. This will be our last one. I want you to pause the video, and this time I want you to label the coordinates. X sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. Okay. Hopefully you labeled these correctly. Like I said, your first point is always just going to be your sub 1s. Your second point will be your sub 2s, and then you just plug it in. 8 minus 6 is 2. 4 minus 3 is 1. So our slope is 2 over 1, or just if you want to put 2, that's fine. Type of line. This is a positive slope, and it does go up. It goes up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. So this is going to be an uphill positive line. Okay. Try the other 4 over here on the right on your own. We'll go over these answers in class tomorrow. And don't forget to do your WISC questions on Schoology tonight.